that despite my flaws and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
she's a good actress,
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Wow. The ego on this girl is ridiculous. Wow.
Rachel Zegler is at the center of a roaring storm that has rattled Disney's core. She's allegedly spiraling into a colossal meltdown after Jenna Ortega confirmed she's jumping on board for the new Snow White remake. The drama couldn't be more intense. Massive financial losses, furious fans, and blame swirling like a relentless tornado with Rachel squarely in the middle. What started as a whisper of dissatisfaction is now a full-blown barrage of accusations aimed straight at Rachel's doorstep.
Tell me if this is attractive to you. Like, does this, imagine you invested into her being the face of the movie and she's the main character and she's trying to promote the movie. Would this make you want to go watch the movie when she's starring in it and she's the main?
Critics are livid, claiming she's single-handedly responsible for the rumored disaster that gutted the box office and cost Disney millions. But Rachel's alleged meltdown isn't just a story of panic. It's a saga of how one star went from Disney darling to the fandom's prime target overnight. Some watchers say her meltdown was triggered by the shocking revelation that Jenna Ortega, hot off her own success, would be the next face behind this iconic fairy tale revival. The clash between rising star power and tarnished reputations.
And just how once trusted critics that shilled for the Disney company all the time, even they are beginning to turn their back against them. That's how bad this movie truly is. Even if you look at the IMDb rating score, that's when you really know how terrible this movie is and how it really hit rock bottom.
Is fueling a social media inferno no one can ignore. And while Rachel may have hoped to ride out the drama quietly, the avalanche of negative press seems unstoppable. Fans, insiders, and even casual observers are buzzing with one question.
That the producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
And there is no resolution in sight for the Walt Disney Company when it comes to Snow White 2025 at the box office. This is exactly why Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, is in pure panic mode over not just the Rachel Zegler backlash, but the entire backlash surrounding this movie in general.
How did Rachel Zegler find herself in this explosive predicament? Why is she suddenly the scapegoat for a project that some argue was doomed from the start? And most importantly, how will she emerge from this meltdown saga, if at all? Critics insist that Rachel's meltdown was as dramatic as you'd expect.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
From someone who took center stage in a cinematic fiasco. Allegedly, it all began when early predictions for Disney's new Snow White pointed to bleak returns. Numbers so low, they threatened to rewrite the narrative of Disney's fairy tale. Magic. Instead of being the next blockbuster, insiders say the film sank into box office obscurity. People began pointing fingers, and those fingers quickly landed on Rachel.
Disney responded by scaling back the premiere. I don't know that anyone really showed up to the premiere. The Rotten Tomatoes reviews are looking pretty bad, and they did, it seems like they tried to tweak a few things, but this movie is bad.
Her portrayal of a beloved character apparently failed to stir the usual. Disney enchantment. The rumor mill churned out tales of behind-the-scenes friction, last-minute rewrites, and a collective sigh of disappointment among higher-ups. Social media erupted with accusations that Rachel's approach was too intense, too modern, or too disconnected from what fans expected.
And you have parents looking at Disney being like, what are you doing, guys? This is supposed to be a place where magic happens, and all you're doing is indoctrinating kids, and you're having this person be the poster child of the Democratic Party.
The meltdown chatter spiked when a leaked account claimed Rachel took the criticism personally, fueling an emotional spiral that had her lashing out at naysayers. Fans claimed her frustration was aimed at nearly everyone, from the production team to the fans themselves, painting her meltdown as a spectacular collision of pride and panic.
Look no further than what Disney is doing with their woke, DEI, feminist agenda.
Destroyed hundreds of millions of dollars worth of IP for Disney, but she also has destroyed her career and the careers of anybody who worked on the movie. The producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
But here's where it gets more complicated. Sources close to the set say Rachel felt immense pressure to live up to Disney's standards, which might have made any critical feedback even more crushing. The meltdown rumor further ignited when staffers claimed she tried to overhaul certain scenes she felt were unfaithful to her interpretation of Snow White. This put her at odds with directors who wanted a balanced take that echoed the classic. As tensions rose,
"We'll still offend the dwarves, but we'll CGI dwarves. So we'll guarantee no employment for little people while getting rid of this other component that warranted CGI. It was the worst decision they could possibly make."
Rachel's emotional reactions allegedly became more frequent, giving skeptics ample fuel to fan the meltdown narrative. And just when the chaos felt overwhelming, Jenna Ortega stepped in, confirming her involvement, and turning the spotlight even brighter on Rachel's rumored emotional unraveling. The entire fiasco left watchers stunned.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
You could look at the fact that she has been sabotaging this film for years at this point, all in this sort of pursuit of entitlement.
Shaking their heads at what looked like the implosion of a once promising Disney star. But that wasn't the whole story. The meltdown rumor exploded onto every social media platform possible. One moment, fans were lamenting the flop at the box office. The next, they were picking apart Rachel's every move, linking her frustration to the rumored casting shuffle. Jenna Ortega's official confirmation fed this narrative like kerosene.
It's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming
So
about
she's gonna die.
true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
After one hell of a PR tour, Disney's live-action Snow White is finally, I know, you were wondering.
The minute she acknowledged her role, the internet erupted, with theories that Disney had grown weary of Rachel's attitude and performance. Now, these are not mild fan disagreements. These are all-out brawls in comment sections, with many piling on Rachel and accusing her of tanking the franchise. Others argued that Jenna's star power could rescue the project from the brink. The tension only soared higher when certain so-called insiders started peddling tales about Rachel's meltdown behind closed doors. Whispers of shouting matches, teary-eyed breakdowns, and furious phone calls echoed through Hollywood's gossip mill. People grew convinced that Rachel was in full damage control mode, trying to salvage her reputation while still grappling with the sting of being overshadowed by Jenna. Meanwhile, commentators declared Rachel's meltdown was written on her face during recent public appearances. Her forced smiles and anxious gestures allegedly gave away the turmoil boiling beneath the surface. For hardcore Disney fans, the meltdown rumor felt like a betrayal of the brand's wholesome image, compounding their resentment toward Rachel. Everyone else just watched in disbelief, wondering how Snow White, of all stories, had become a battlefield of Hollywood egos and questionable decisions. As the meltdown reports multiplied, critics revisited every interview, every quote, and every slip-up Rachel made. They found patterns of defensiveness and hints of frustration that seemed to confirm the meltdown storyline. Others, though fewer in number, defended Rachel, insisting she was set up for failure by a project plagued with behind-the-scenes chaos. Yet, the tide of public opinion was strong, and it seemed to swell against her with each passing day, and what happened next would shock everyone. Rachel Zegler wasn't always the public enemy in the eyes of the Disney fandom. In fact, her casting in the original Snow White project was met with excitement. Her vocal talents, fresh image, and the stamp of approval from Disney higher-ups made her a beacon of promise. But a series of controversies chipped away at that glittery image. Some say it started with offhand comments she made about the direction of the film, comments that didn't sit well with purists. Others argue her social media presence was rife with condescension toward critics. The meltdown rumor took on new weight when these past controversies started stacking up, painting her as combative, dismissive, or just plain out of touch with the Disney tradition. Fans reminisced about classic Disney leading ladies who embodied poise and grace, contrasting them with Rachel's no-nonsense, borderline combative approach to the role. The tension hit fever pitch when behind-the-scenes allegations surfaced. Claims that she clashed with makeup artists over the Snow White aesthetic, or that she scolded costume designers who tried to keep her look faithful to tradition. True or not, these stories amplified the meltdown narrative. Critics grew more vocal, painting Rachel as a star who believed she knew better than anyone else, including the studio executives. So, when the meltdown rumor hit, it felt like the culmination of months of friction. Suddenly, people were pointing back to every controversy, using it as proof that her meltdown was not just likely, but inevitable. Rachel's once adoring audience felt betrayed, and the idea of her meltdown only confirmed their suspicion that something had gone terribly off the rails. Even her fellow cast members were allegedly advised to steer clear of any public defense, further isolating Rachel at a time when she needed solidarity the most. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. Jenna Ortega's name became a lightning rod the moment she signed on to the new Snow White project. Media outlets and fans alike saw her as the perfect foil to Rachel. Charismatic, with an edgy side, but also a refreshing humility. Rumor has it that this stark contrast intensified Rachel's meltdown. Anonymous tips from supposed insiders claimed that when Rachel discovered Jenna was being brought in for a pivotal role, she felt blindsided. The meltdown escalated as Rachel reportedly believed her rightful spotlight was being stolen by someone who was overshadowing her not just in star power, but in personality and fan appeal. Social media erupted with hashtags that pitted the two actresses against each other, turning the Disney community into an arena of heated arguments. Jenna's supporters accused Rachel of being threatened and unprofessional. Rachel's defenders claimed Jenna was the newcomer stepping on toes. But the meltdown story didn't end there. Allegedly, Rachel confronted Disney executives about feeling undermined, demanding answers about the creative direction that suddenly seemed to revolve around Jenna. People close to the situation say her meltdown took on a new life as she realized the negative press was tarnishing her once promising Disney trajectory. She was at risk of not just losing the fans, but also her standing among Hollywood's elite. As the rumors spread, it gained traction with lightning speed, with Rachel meltdown trending for days. Every new snippet of gossip or alleged quote from an insider fed into the narrative that Rachel was on the verge of a complete professional collapse, and the public, hungry for the next big drama, eagerly devoured every shred of speculation. By the time official media outlets began reporting on the meltdown, it was practically a foregone conclusion in the minds of many observers. Still, the chaos only grew bigger. Disney, for its part, found itself in a precarious position as news of the meltdown took on a life of its own. Higher-ups reportedly scrambled to contain the situation, fearing that the project's already dismal box office performance could worsen if the meltdown chatter spread further. The rumor swirling was that executives weren't just upset at Rachel, they were furious about the negative impact on the entire brand. Some blamed Rachel for overshadowing the film with scandal, instead of letting it quietly exit theaters. Others insisted the meltdown was a symptom of deeper, systemic issues at Disney, like ignoring fan feedback and pushing forward with questionable creative decisions. Meanwhile, Jenna Ortega's presence loomed ever larger. Many believed she was Disney's secret weapon to salvage the Snow White name from utter ruin. Fans buzzed about the possibility of rewriting the storyline, focusing on a fresh angle that would star Jenna front and center. And with every rumor about Jenna's expanded role came a new wave of meltdown reports. Commentators speculated that each rumor felt like another dagger in Rachel's confidence, fueling more emotional outbursts behind closed doors. If Disney thought the meltdown talk would fade, they were sorely mistaken. The more they tried to plug leaks, the more rumors seeped out, painting a picture of total backstage pandemonium. People wanted to know, how much money had the studio really lost? And was it all Rachel's fault? As critics tallied the losses, they pointed to a singular figure on the chopping block, Rachel Zegler, supposedly too headstrong for her own good. And with Jenna Ortega stepping in, it looked like Disney was ready to move on, meltdown or not. In a twist no one expected, some fans started calling for a full-blown boycott of Disney's remakes, claiming the meltdown was just another sign of Hollywood's arrogance and disregard for tradition. But it only got stranger. Public sentiment took a radical turn as fans started to dissect Rachel's meltdown with greater scrutiny. Some once loyal supporters now labeled her meltdown a wake-up call for the entire Hollywood system. Others gleefully spread the news as if it were a juicy scandal meant to tarnish yet another rising star. But perhaps the biggest twist was how easily fans linked the meltdown to a deeper rift within Disney. The meltdown rumor appeared to confirm the suspicion that the studio's approach to classic remakes was fundamentally flawed. Too many changes, not enough respect for tradition, and stars who failed to connect with the essence of these timeless stories. At this point, even mainstream publications began to discuss the meltdown's cultural significance. They argued it illustrated the intense scrutiny that female stars face in Hollywood, especially when stepping into roles with iconic legacies. Rachel, some opined, was trapped in a lose-lose situation. If she conformed, she was criticized for lacking innovation. If she deviated, she was slammed for disrespecting a classic. Yet, the meltdown narrative remained front and center, overshadowing any meaningful conversation about artistic choices. But the media wasn't done yet. Mainstream outlets got their hands on alleged leaks detailing Rachel's meltdown in excruciating detail. Headlines screamed about her shouting at staff, locking herself in dressing rooms, and sobbing over lost opportunities. Whether these leaked stories were fact or fiction didn't matter. They electrified the gossip world. Casual viewers who barely knew about the Snow White remake were now enthralled by the spectacle of a star in crisis. Fan theories took flight, painting Rachel as an embattled actress cornered by a cruel system. Others portrayed her as a villain who refused to accept her own failures. The meltdown rumor at this stage was unstoppable, and it didn't help that Disney seemed to be distancing itself from Rachel. Observers noticed the studio's social media accounts promoting Jenna Ortega's involvement while conspicuously ignoring Rachel's meltdown fiasco. It was as if Disney had made a silent decision: place bets on Jenna and let the meltdown run its course. Commentators speculated that Rachel might be blacklisted from future projects. They asked if her meltdown was the sign of an unprofessional star who couldn't handle criticism, or if she was a misunderstood talent crushed by the weight of Disney's high expectations. Either way, the narrative was sealed. Meltdown mania was here to stay, feeding off every new rumor, every snippet of supposed insider information. Some even drew parallels to past Disney controversies, suggesting that Rachel's meltdown was part of a larger trend of stars clashing with the studio's micromanagement. They pointed out that Disney's track record with certain live-action remakes had been shaky, and Rachel's situation simply poured more fuel on that fire. Regardless, the meltdown story became the go-to explanation for every misstep, every critical review, and every disappointed fan. It was, in essence, the best scapegoat for a major project gone wrong. And while Jenna Ortega may be stepping into the spotlight as the fresh face of Snow White's future, Rachel Zegler's meltdown saga will continue to echo as a stark reminder of how even the most promising fairy tale can become a nightmare in the blink of an eye. At this point, all eyes remain fixed on Rachel's next move, if she can muster a comeback in a realm where reputations are forged and destroyed with stunning swiftness.